Hello everyone, I'm Mean Machine Dean, in case you hadn't realised, but obviously you're on this channel because it'd be a bit stupid if you didn't. Anyway, welcome. I don't know why I started a podcast like that, it was a bit weird. Anyway, ignore that, it's clearly in one of my silly moods today. Thank you for all joining. As you can see, I'm currently in the Mean Machine Den, which is a different angle to you'd normally be used to, because you normally see me keyed out and green screened and that, but no, not today. We're going with this funky angle that I normally do for podcasting. Anyway, that aside, I have a fantastic guest. But just before we get to that, there are a couple of things, as per usual with my podcasts. There's a couple of cues that you can currently use in chat. There is !podcast, which will give you a little bit of information about said person. See, I got my pointing fingers correct that time. Yeah, you nearly caught me out. And if you do want to ask, wonderful Marta, who I will introduce shortly, a question, or myself, if you feel that way inclined, !pod question, and it will give you a link. Fill in that form, it will come through to me, and that's it. Simple, isn't it? Anyway, without further ado, the wonderful Marta has joined me today as my guest, which I cannot be happier about. So Marta, welcome to Mean Machine Talks. How are you today?
I'm very good, thank you. Thank you for having me.
No,
to be here.
No, it's great to have you. I mean, you're looking very well for someone who spent most of last night gaming. For those who didn't know, Marta and some of her esteemed colleagues were taking part in a wonderful charity stream for Special Effect, which, as you know, is a friend of the channel and a close place towards my heart. And was trying to get a chicken dinner, which, considering that Marta is vegan, makes me laugh a lot. So how was that stream yesterday? I mean, it looked like you were having good fun.
Oh yeah, we were having loads of fun. To be honest, like for me, I mentioned to you previously before we got started, it was literally the second time I played PUBG in my life ever. So it was an interesting experiment. And like the four of us, it was four of us together in the team. Playing, and we knew we weren't going to do very well. We were just like, we're just, you know what, we're going to have fun. And fun we had. It was, we had some weird techniques that we used to distract our competition. Sadly, it didn't work very well, but we didn't come last, and that's all that matters.
You're a winner in my eyes. You took part. Yes. Everyone's a winner in a charity competition. I'm only saying that to make you feel better. But anyway, that aside, yeah, I did see the part where I think it was you and one of your teammates were crawling underneath a bridge.
Oh,
with no weapons.
That was my favourite part.
And I was like, this is good. I like this technique.
You don't need it.
No.
Why would you need weapons when you have your beautiful selves crawling on the ground under a bridge?
In all my years,
chilling.
I have never seen someone adopt that. So for that, you get a Mean Machine round of applause. So thank you for that. But it looked like a fantastic event, and you guys clearly. I mean, I don't know what was the end amount, like £8,000 or something crazy you guys raised.
Yeah, something along those lines. Yeah. Hopefully, people can still. I believe people can still donate. So
okay.
Hopefully, we'll still be able to raise more.
Yeah, I did.
Yeah, it's a wonderful event.
I did retweet a tweet about it yesterday, so if anyone does want to donate, I should have actually put the thing in chat, but never mind. Yeah, if you go to my Twitter, there is a link, I think, in there when I retweeted it, so if you did want to donate to Special Effect and stuff, unless Marta's now going to go and get code, but we'll see. Because, you know, she's far better at this than I am. But yeah, it was a fantastic event, and as I said, I think it was really nice to see loads of different companies and stuff come together. I mean, there was like, it was all sorts of different companies and like, you know, computer resellers and everything all coming together, and I thought, what a brilliant idea. Like, this is fantastic. And I'd never actually seen that particular type of event before, and I thought, this is superb. Yeah. This is what I want to see.
This is the third one, and I'm pretty sure based on the success that it has been having for the past 3 years, I'm pretty sure it will come back. So
Come on next year. Come on next year. Mate, hopefully.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, for sure.
Hopefully by next year, Corona would have buggered off and we'll actually be able to do it face to face. There we go.
Yeah. Because in the past few years, you actually get like a full setup. I haven't taken part, but my wonderful colleague Shah, she's one of the people that is involved in organizing the event. Like, you have like a full on like esports venue, and you get people coming in. It looks legit, man, because it is legit. and it's great fun. It's great fun. So hopefully next year, who knows?
Especially when someone gets a big camera and puts it in your face, and you're like, "Just die!" And it's like, "All right,
Yeah,
hi everyone,
yeah.
donate to charity." And it's like, okay, right.
Exactly, and this is where I come in, and out of context, I say, "Look, just get naked and let's go into the bushes, and everything will be fine." And you're like, "What are you talking about? You're gonna have to watch the stream."
Anyway, on that note, so let's talk a little bit more about you. So, what I normally do with my guests is I normally get them to do a quick introduction to themselves. It's about 30 seconds to a minute. So, what I normally do, and this is going to be interesting to do, is I normally hand over a virtual mic. So, I'm going to lean forward, and what you're going to do is you're going to put your right hand, I think, to the left of your side. And I'm going to hand over this mic. Is this actually going to work? Let's see.
It's like let's find out. Let's find out.
And I'm going to deploy the mic there. So if you reach out, and then
wait.
she's trying to get her angles right. See, I've confused.
Which side? You've
there we go. That one.
This
yeah,
one?
Yeah, grab that and bring
Okay.
a virtual mic and give yourself a quick introduction in 30 seconds or less. Go.
Oh my goodness. Hello, hi. Hi, I'm Marta. I am a senior designer within the publishing side of video games. In my spare time, I also do some streaming where I play games, do workouts, sometimes some push-ups, and talk to people and give them some sass. And I complain that I'm vegan often.
That I can actually vouch for this, as I've been in quite a few of
I can vouch for
Marta's streams. Push-ups are approved. Veganism is confirmed. Yeah, pretty much everything she said is definitely confirmed, so she is telling the truth. But no, I mean, again, thank you very much for giving me your time. I think the thing I wanted to try and do today is get a woman's view of the gaming world, because I think as of late, in some cases, rightly so, there has been some negative press. But I think with yourself, you have such a positive attitude, and obviously you've spent some time in the games industry yourself. So I think it would be interesting to get more of a deep dive at some of the more positive aspects and brew some positivity back into it. So let's start way back at the beginning. Small Marta.
Mini Marta.
Mini Marta. So small.
Mini Marta.
So small.
Shush, man.
So when you were younger, how was the gaming scene? Because I assume you grew up in Portugal. Is that correct?
Yes,
So
I grew up in Portugal.
How was the gaming scene when you were younger? What was kind of the consoles and computers around at that time?
Oh man, yeah. So I was kind of lucky because I have an older brother, and because of that, like, he had the Spectrum, and that was my first entry into anything. So by the time I had maybe 5, 6, and I was able to use my little fingers and hands to play games, that was the first thing I experienced. But by that time, the Spectrum was already kind of old. But that was my first entry into it. At the time, it was the Master System, and very soon the Mega Drive that were the big thing. And Sega was huge in Portugal. It still kind of is. So with Master System and the Mega Drive being the consoles that people were into, I was still with my Spectrum, just chilling, just having fun. So that was what I got into. I remember having this huge like coding book. I don't think if you remember, anyone that has played a Spectrum or had a Spectrum knows that you had like this big manual of coding. And I was really into cars. Again, older brother, it explains a lot about me. And I was really into cars, and I just kept drawing cars using lines of code. So you had this huge line, like literally like a big line of code like this, to draw one wheel. And then I would go from there, and the wheel was just a circle.
Nice.
Look, I'm using my imagination here, right? but that was the scene. To be honest, I didn't have my own console till I was about I think I was 6. I used to play a lot of games with my friends who were all boys. So they had the Master System, and that was pretty much how I experienced a lot of my very first games, like excluding the Spectrum, because there were a lot of games. But I'm still that person that remembers putting the cassette in and then going, okay, I'm going to go outside and play for half an hour because it's going to take a while.
Yes.
And then come back and it wasn't loaded.
There's nothing quite like sitting there and hearing and then like a kaleidoscopic mess happening on the screen, and then coming back to find that it says error, and you've got to rewind it and do it again.
It happened. It happened.
So good.
It happened often. But yeah, that was pretty much what I used to. I used to go to my friend's house. Literally, they lived just across the road, so I used to spend a lot of time. There were a couple of brothers, and I used to spend a lot of time with them, and we used to play Master System games all the time, like all the time. And then I tell this story often, but I guess I'll bore you with it as well. Because I really liked it. I loved the game so much. I was like, oh my god, this is so much fun. This is nothing like the half an hour wait that I have to have. Even though I did love the Spectrum, and it was amazing. I liked the fact that you put the cartridge in and things work. That's what I liked. So I begged my parents for a Master System. I was like, oh, can I have my own? Can I have my own? So I don't have, because I used to go to my friend's house, and then they would invite me for dinner, and every time I would call, on the real phone, I would dial up and they lived just across the road, by the way. I would go, Mom, can I stay for dinner? And I would stay for dinner just so I could play games till like midnight and 1 a.m. and then I would walk home, which again, it was like super close. My parents, bless them, they went to the shops and they asked for a Master System, and the shop clerk, maybe that's the person I need to thank. They were like, oh, do you want a Master System? But the Mega Drive just came out. They're like, oh, is that a newer one? Yes, it's newer, better, everything. So they got me a Mega Drive instead, and then my friends started coming to my house to play games.
I see.
It was a nice shift. But it was that in conjunction with a couple of arcades that existed nearby. Not an actual full-on arcades, but like one machine or two here and there, in a few shopping centers and stuff like that. And that was pretty much what I experienced, like at a very early age. Like that was like, okay, I'm sold, and then I would spend hours playing games. It's like spent hours playing Sonic and Knuckles and so many other games, because that was the game that came with my Mega Drive.
It's always fascinating to hear how games kind of went, I guess, to use a phrase, abroad to different countries and stuff.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm half Egyptian myself, and it's funny because gaming out there was very different to what it was in Europe. So, like the Atari was like the thing. Like, and in fact, like anytime anyone mentions a computer, they basically say Atari instead of computers because it's so ingrained into people's psyche now. But yeah, it's always funny to see how that translates. But I mean, look at you. Right, hang on. There is a question. There's a very important question.
Yes.
Mega Drive 1 or 2?
2.
Yes. I knew I liked you. Come on.
2.
Mega Drive 2.
2.
See that, people?
That was the one. That was the one I had, and
I'm so happy now.
The funny thing was just I then had friends that once they got it, they got the one. I think maybe because the one was cheaper by that point. I don't know exactly why. And I used to complain about it. I used to be like, mine looks way cooler. Mine is better. And it was just like, and they were coming to my house to play games this time. See? So I guess it was.
See, you were the cool one in the crew.
I was the cool one for a very, very short while. It didn't last long. I didn't last long. I wasn't a very popular kid, but it was good times. I really enjoyed it. I still remember those, and I can only hope, because I'm not in touch with a lot of these friends anymore. But their parents still live across the road where my family lives as well. So it's funny to see that some things haven't changed that much. But I can only hope they remember those times fondly the same way I do. They introduced me to Streets of Rage, and I'll forever be grateful for.
And there it is, running in the background. I did ask you before what your favourite game was, and right on cue, the intro is now playing. So I mean, Streets of Rage, even till this day, is just it's a cornerstone of gaming. I mean, if you say to most people, "What's your favourite game on the Mega Drive?" I would say a good 60% would probably straight away say a form of a Streets of Rage game.
Yeah.
Besides Sonic and Golden Axe and probably a few others that you could insert into that, most people would probably pick Streets of Rage 2. I think.
Streets of Rage 2 is definitely up there for me.
I totally agree. It's such a beautiful cornerstone of gaming, and as I said, it's one of those things where, because you could play with friends, you obviously start to bring those memories of having friends over and stuff. And I mention this quite often in my podcast. It's something that, especially in times like now with what's going on in the world, that it's a shame that since we've had faster internet introduced, the actual world has got closer, but physically we've actually got further away.
True,
And some
yeah.
of my favourite gaming memories have been going to events, playing, against people, having loads of friends over, playing around a console. I mean, I remember when I was younger, I had a birthday party at my current parents' house, and we were basically playing NBA Jam on the Super Nintendo for about 4 hours straight.
Yeah.
So amazing memories like that. But I just feel like those days are slowly starting to fade away, and there's two ways of looking at it. Because we've got the internet, as I said, the world has become closer, but I think physically we've actually become much further away. But it's nice that I can talk to a human being like yourself via the power of the internet, and still keep in contact. So in those regards, I think gaming has become more accessible in terms of meeting people with a certain genre or something that you enjoy. But I do believe those particular gaming memories are slowly being lost by people not actually being physically in the same room, which, given the current global situation, probably is for the right reason. But you get what I mean.
No, absolutely. I mean, it's just like that's one of the things with streaming as well. It's just that I absolutely found that I love. It's just being able to connect with people, even though we're all in different places, in some cases different countries, and we get to play games together. Thank God for the internet. So I think if this had happened in a different time, things probably wouldn't have been as easy. I think we're very fortunate. I mean, silver linings are a thing for a reason. Luckily, we have that.
I know. Fortunately, some of us actually live in Slough as well. So
yes,
we won't talk about that. We'll touch on that later. That's a joke that I'm going to leave in there just to simmer and see if anyone gets it. So that's cool. So your graphic design kind of background, was that something that stemmed from your youth, or was that kind of when you? I mean, obviously you migrated to here. So what was kind of the story of how you got into graphic design?
I mean, I can tell you the story. It's not as short as I would like it to be.
Go ahead.
But I'll tell you all about it. I actually was I was one of those kids that wanted to be a billion things. It's just I wanted to be a singer, an actress, a lawyer, an astronaut. I wanted to make video games. I wanted to be a scientist. I wanted to be a doctor. I wanted to be all sorts of things. So I went through phases because growing up in Portugal, you don't really get. And I think this wasn't just specific to Portugal back then. I think this was a worldwide thing. It's like in a lot of places, you just don't have a straight line of you don't know what you can do as a job. It's just the options were things along the lines of being, you're a doctor, you work in the bank, you work in the shop, and you can be an accountant. That's it. Those are your options. Good luck. It's just, it's very, you don't get, the whole, like today you have career fairs and you get to talk to people about what your options are. Back then I had no idea. Right. And of course, like if I joked about the idea of being a lawyer or a doctor, your family is usually very keen on that idea. So I actually settled on becoming a neurosurgeon. I know, very specific. And the way the system works, it's you kind of have to decide what you want to do by the age of 15, because that outlines your path of your studying path from that point on. So we have, when we go into secondary school, the way we have is that it's secondary school, 3 years, and then you go to university. Right. There's no in between. That's how it works. But what you do in secondary school, you have to know what you're going to do, because I had to pick sciences because of that. So I wanted to be a neurosurgeon, and I actually did. I was studying science for 1 year, and I was like, oh my God, I'm actually not enjoying this. I love science, and I love neurosurgery specifically, in particular. Absolutely loved it, but sadly around that time I did have to spend a lot of time in hospitals because of a few health issues, and I started to realize that I didn't want to spend my whole life in hospitals. It was just that realization of it was a blessing in disguise, because I think life works in very mysterious ways. But I ended up spending a lot of time in hospitals, and then I realized this is not where I want to spend my career life in. And I can only have like the biggest amount of respect for particularly neurosurgeons. Like absolutely, they're my heroes. So I went from being very certain of what I wanted to do with my life to I don't have a goal. I don't know what I'm doing. I felt lost. I was just like, I'm now studying in something. I have no idea what I'm going to do with my life. No clue. And then, funny enough, a actual career, kind of like a career fair happened for it's not a career fair, but like a university path kind of fair happened. And I was talking to someone, they had a leaflet on design. And I'm like, wait, are you telling me that those squiggles I do on Photoshop and those websites I used to do on GeoCities back in the day, are you telling me this is a career? I can do this as a job. And they're like, yeah, absolutely. They were really surprised I didn't know, because I'm like, yeah, I didn't know. And I remember looking at that leaflet and going, I know what I want to do. This is it. I was still, very confused, but I was like, okay, design is a thing. I can do this as a job. This is great. But I still had a lot of pressure from family, because the way that it worked is that if I decided that I wanted to do arts, I had to give up science and go back 1 year to study arts. I couldn't just pick it up. I had to go back 1 year. So a lot of people said, at this stage, I was 15, 16, so fairly young. And a lot of people were telling me, don't do it. It's a mistake. You're going to lose a year of your life. So basically, you're going to go to university a year later than everyone else. I'm like, oh my God. Now I look at it and I think, what a silly thing to say. But back then, I used to think, oh my God, I'm going to go to university way later than all my friends. I'm going to be held back. This is going to be terrible. And I took a lot of pride in performing well in school, but I wasn't performing well because, again, I was anxious. I was struggling with what I wanted to do. And so I was told to hold back. It's like, just wait, think about it. You're young. I was being told I was being impulsive, that I was young. I didn't know what I was doing. And I'm like, I waited another year. Waiting another year just made me 100% sure that, even though maybe I wasn't sure about design, but I was 100% sure that what I was doing was not for me. It was not what I wanted. So I kind of wasted that year a little bit. But after that year, I made the decision. Now, to put into perspective as well, the people I was going to school with, they were my colleagues from year 5, and we were on year 11. So these were people I knew. It's like I was comfortable. It was the school I knew, with people I knew. I had to change school. I went to study arts, and while I was studying arts, I kept finding out more about design, and I figured out that graphic design was one of the paths. I knew I wanted to do something like graphic design. And web design, because I was very big into it as well. I was already making websites at the time. So yeah, it was it wasn't a straight line. There wasn't a design. Yes, this is what I want. It was kind of like this. And I wish more people knew that, finding out what you want to do in life can take. I think I was lucky because I eventually found out. But yeah, at 15, being told, genuinely, I had people telling me I was making the biggest mistake of my life. At 15, 16.
Yeah, I remember quite fondly actually being at school, a similar thing where you get to have these careers advisors, and and this started way in primary school. So when I was really, really young, and I remember they were like, "Oh, what do you want to be when you grow up?" And I was sitting in the room, people were like, "I want to be a footballer," and other people were like, "I want to become a nurse," and I'm sitting there going,
Yes.
I haven't got a clue, mate. I haven't got a clue. And I think I can't even remember what I said. I must have said something stupid, it wasn't stupid back at the time. It was something to do with computers. And they were like, can you be more specific? I'm like, I'm a 10-year-old.
Yeah.
Are you having a laugh? I haven't got a clue what I'm doing. The only thing I want to do is go out and play football.
Yeah.
That's as far as I want to come. But I think you touched on a very good point, is that I think, I don't know if it's a mentality thing or a cultural thing, depending on where you've grown up, but there is almost this rat race approach where if you don't hit a goal by this date, then basically you failed. And I think the one thing about life, especially my own opinion, I think a lot of it is about an evolution of a person. I mean, similar course to yourself. I mean, when I was younger, I wanted to become a vet. And then I started looking into it, and I was like, yeah, you're going to have to put down animals. And I was like, no, that ain't happening. So straight away I was like, nope, that ain't happening. I ain't doing that. I can't deal with that emotional stress. And then I was kind of sitting there going, so what do I do? And then kind of like similar to yourself, randomly the internet started to become a thing, and then started looking into it, and then web design and stuff like that. I mean, I'm an email marketing manager by trade, so yes, I'm an international spammer. Yes, get over it, people. Yes, all right, but I'm a clever one. That's the difference. But yeah, I mean, as you said, it's one of those things where I think because there's a time defined on things, it automatically adds its own pressure, and it doesn't help when society kind of goes, well, if you haven't hit this deadline by this date, then you're basically a non-existing person. It's like, but people go ahead and they relearn languages and re-educate themselves into different things, and I think it's not right to kind of pigeonhole someone in this time frame. I mean, as you said, to then be put back a year is obviously enough of an emotional strain on yourself, but then to have society pour that on top as well doesn't help things.
Because it was like, when I wanted to go back 1 year, it was already a big deal. But because I was being pressured to, think about it, see how it goes, and do another year. And then when I actually ended up, now I'm even more certain I don't want to be here. That's when people start going, you're going back 2 years? 2 whole years? You're going to be 2 years older than everyone else in your class? And you're going to go to university older? 2 whole years older? Oh my God, stop the presses. It's just, back then it felt like a big deal, particularly, it's like, particularly with my background. So I've been I was working and studying since I was 15, not all at the same time, but during, in Portugal, we were very lucky to have really big summer breaks. So I would work my summer breaks, and there were times where, yes, like if my family didn't have that much, so I remember when my mum lost a job, I picked up a job to help out. So, and I was not only I was doing my driving license, I was doing my full-time arts at secondary school. I had literally just shifted, so I was getting used to something new, and I was working at an ice cream place. Hey, at least I got free ice cream, which was great. Silver linings, okay, silver linings. But I remember being very, very, very tired, and but everyone kept saying, you're going into arts from, it's like, because everyone just, particularly, my family was very supportive, but of course there's always that side of, oh, we want a doctor in the family, kind of thing. And I would have been the first one to actually do it, but I realized that even though and that I was doing it for myself, because again, I do love neurosurgery a lot, and I think it's fascinating, and even today sometimes I'll read on the subject because it's something that I'm interested in. But back then I also realized I wanted to be a doctor just so I could make my family proud as well, and that I could also financially do well so I could support them more in the future. And then I realized that if I kept doing things for others all my life, for more that I still do that and I like doing that, but if that is my sole goal, I would never be happy. So I had to do a shift. I had to do something for myself, and deciding to study arts and that I would eventually go into graphic design or design in general was, people kept, it's like, just to wrap it up nicely, people kept telling me it was oh, you're making the biggest mistake of your life. I can turn around today and say it was the best thing I've ever done. Best thing I've ever done.
That was not the story I was expecting. Wow. No, don't be sorry at all. It's fascinating to hear these background stories, because as I said, I think hearing it from someone who's come from another country, and hearing obviously the strains and stresses that you've been through, I mean, I can relate to most of what you've actually said a lot, especially the doctor part, because my mother still goes on about it. But no, as I said, it's fascinating to hear an inside story, especially in your past. And I mean, clearly you've established yourself as being an incredible talent at what you do, which then brings us on to the next part. So okay, so you got into graphic design, and you kind of graduated and stuff. What was kind of the first job? Did you do like independent stuff, or did you find yourself like a small job?
Yeah, so I've done, first, before I even got into actually, I did do a few bits of, like as you call independent stuff. I did a little bit of freelancing. It's like as I first started. I didn't get a job in my field straight away, because again, I think anyone that has done university knows, once you graduate, that isn't just, you don't have your ticket to go straight into the door. That's not what. At least that's not how it worked for me.
Agreed.
I panicked a little bit as well. So I was actually working in the video game retail shop at the time. I worked throughout all of university, and for 3 years I was working in this retail store at the same time as I was studying. So that eventually became my full-time job. So the first 6 months after I left university, that was my job. So what I realized that was happening, and this is very, very easy to happen to most people, I'm sure a lot of people can relate. I was comfortable. I didn't make that many friends at university because, again, I was studying, and I moved to the UK for university. I studied in Portsmouth, and I didn't make that many friends because I was working and studying, but also everything was new to me, and I was new to everything. I could speak English fine, but I was very shy about it as well. Initially, I was a bit scared of making mistakes and, actually living. I've been speaking English since I was maybe 11, 12, but, it just had a different impact on me. And when I got comfortable. The friends I made were the friends I had at the store that I worked at. I knew the place, I knew the area. As many people know, you have, not just in university, but in life, a lot of times you just have to share place with other people because, renting a place is expensive in most places, and particularly as a student. So the housemates I had at the time, I've moved a lot, and they were the only housemates I've genuinely, truly got along with and loved to hang out with. And so I was in a very comfortable situation. So I didn't want to go anywhere. I was like, this is it. And that's where I realized I needed to make a shift. I'm comfortable. Things are good. I need to go. I know it's weird. It's a weird thing. You think things are good, but I have
to change.
This is not. Yeah, and I needed to change. So what I decided to ask for a transfer to, because the store I worked at was a franchise. I asked for a transfer to London. So if I went to London, start looking for a job in graphic design, and that's kind of what I did. So after those first 6 months, I moved there, worked in a different shop in London, and started applying for jobs. Found a job at a couple of studios initially in those small bits, so I didn't find something that was very permanent, but I was doing a few bits of interesting work, building portfolio, because that is, sadly, again, people want people hiring want people with experience, and but if you're just fresh of university, you don't have experience, but you're only willing to pay for a certain amount. And I couldn't afford to take an unpaid internship. I couldn't do it. A lot of my colleagues already had internships. I had to work. I couldn't do that. It was, sadly, having that work experience, I wanted it, but I just couldn't afford it. And the way I worked around it is that, luckily, my work was very, very flexible. So I was working at the retail shop on weekends. So the first job I found, like, properly, that was more steady, was at an analytics company. It's like doing e-commerce websites, so doing web updates and design updates for those websites. So actually fairly known e-commerce websites as well. So if you shop online, you've probably come across some of my work at some point. But back then, what I had to do, I was on weekends working at the shop, and during the week working at this really fancy, nice office. So I didn't have, I think for the whole of 2 months, I didn't have a day off. I was literally working weekends and weekdays, because I was, I couldn't afford to just have the really, some of my first jobs were, they weren't that well paid. So I had to find a way to work things around it, because if not, I would never find a job. It's very difficult. You have to be willing to get your hands dirty and actually step in there and do work around with the tools that you have. I was lucky that I had a job that was flexible. I worked around it. After those first 2 months, I finally got a steady job there. I worked there for a while. So a lot of my background is website conversion. So what it comes down to is looking at websites, user experience mainly, user interface, user experience, making sure that things function in a way that's easy and straightforward, that even someone that isn't web versed can look at it, click on it, know what they're doing. and that's kind of how I started. I was working in Soho. If anyone that is from the UK or London knows that it's a very like hip area for design studios, and a lot of cool things happen over there. So that's where I got my first experience. Yeah, that's kind of how I got into my first few jobs. I'd like to say just one, but I had quite a few before I landed.
I can relate to the portfolio thing. I remember coming out
Yeah.
of university, and the first job that I applied for. I mean, my background is a bit weird because I'm like
Yeah.
a graphic designer, a video editor, a photographer, a web designer, and a marketeer. I'm a weirdo. But I remember the first job I ever went to was a logo design company in Slough. It was a very small startup company. And I remember walking into there with my suit on, and I had there's a document that they get given in the UK called a National Record of Achievement, which is the biggest pile of crap ever made. It's basically a posh-looking folder, and you're supposed to put all of your documents in it, and you're supposed to turn up and go, haha, look at me, aren't I fantastic? And I remember I had my degree, and I had this crap book thing that I had, and I remember sitting across this guy, and basically we had a quick chat and stuff. So and he went, so yeah, how much experience have you got? And I was like, don't know if you read my CV, but I've just come out of university.
Yeah.
And he was like, so how do you expect me to give you a job? And at that point, I was like, oh my God, he's right. How is he going to give me a job? And lo and behold, I didn't get the job. But I kind of had to go away and have a long think, because I heard murmurings about, like, you'll come out of university and you won't be able to get a job. And I sat for a very, very, very long time to try and work out what I could do. And basically what I did was I flipped the tables on my head, and I went, okay, so if I was applying, like if I wanted to find me, what would I do? And I basically made this portfolio of, here's an example of what I would do to make a website, here's the flow I would go through, here's the type of communications I would have, here's the type of meetings I would do, here's the revisions I would do, and this and that. And I remember turning up to my first job, and I had this portfolio, no word of a lie, it was that thick. And this lady's looking at the CV, and she's looking at this portfolio, and she's going, what the hell is this guy? And all I did was just shove this portfolio across. And funny enough, she sort of just opened it and started flicking through it, and all I could see was her eyes, like, opening as wide as they could be. And she looked back at me and went, is this all your work? And I went, yeah, I basically spent 6 months doing all this. And she was like, I've seen people who have had, like, a lot more experience come with portfolios that are less impressive than this. And I went, well, the difference is that if you want something, you're really going to make that commitment. And that's what, from what I've just heard from you, that just shows the level of dedication, because, you went through a career path that you realised you didn't want, you changed, you then adapted, you then moved here, and then adapted again. And I think that's something that's obviously quite amazing about yourself, is the manage that you've managed to, I guess, to use a phrase, rubber band yourself, of being flexible into different scenarios to make things work. And I mean, it's fantastic to hear how you kind of come to another country and make that work. But I think, my mother came here when she was like, I think 18, 19, and she tells me about, like, kind of the intimidation of using a secondary language, even though she could speak it fluently. But obviously there's still that intimidation of, what will people say? Will they think my accent's funny? Will they mock me and stuff like that? So
people used to make fun of my accent all the time as well. I didn't sound like this when I first moved. So people used to make fun of it all the time.
Did you speak very proper English, like when you came? It was like, oh yes, sir, I would like a tea.
Actually not. I had apparently I was told that I sounded American, which I'm sometimes still told that I sound American today. What happens to me a lot is that people will go, if people are from a different country, if people are not from here, they usually think that I'm English. If I go to Portugal and I speak the way I'm speaking to you right now, nobody will guess I'm Portuguese except for the way I look. That's it. Like nobody will even guess. But here, what happens a lot is people going, "Where are you from?" I mean, I can tell you're not from, but where? Because I don't have a typical Portuguese accent when speaking English.
Agreed.
It's a very specific accent that it's the same that if I listen to my Spanish friends speaking English, I know the Spanish immediately. Same with Portuguese friends. So there are certain accents, and with me, I've been told that it sounds ambiguous. Nobody knows exactly where I'm from. They're just like, "Where are you from? What is this? What is this thing?" but yeah, I was told that I sounded American, and a lot of times I would pronounce words weirdly that I had never heard before. But I was like, I'm just gonna say it, and if someone corrects me, great. If they don't correct me, they're just gonna deal with my bad pronunciation forever. That's just the way it is.
You must confuse border staff in Portugal, though, right? I bet they're looking at your passport, going, "Hang on a minute."
In Portugal, I will speak Portuguese to them, obviously, but it does happen. It has happened where if I'm speaking to a friend on the phone or something, it has happened a few times. That particularly, I've worked my first year at university. I went back to Portugal for a few months during summer, during uni break, and I was working at a pizzeria. And I'm from the south of Portugal, very touristy, loads of people there that speak English. And of course, I was speaking English to a lot of people all day, every day. And my boss, the staff, they're all like, "Oh my God, you sound like one of them." I'm like, "I live there." I was like, it's my new home. It's just, I didn't think anything of it, but yeah. Then people went from making fun of me for sounding weird, and I actually was made fun of a few times for making mistakes in English because I didn't care. I would just speak it. And hope for the best. And then it went from making fun of me for that to you sound so English. I'm like, I don't. It's like, but to them I do. It's the same way that my friends from Portugal tell me that right now I look pale. And I'm pretty sure I'm not pale, but thank you for that. But in comparison to how I used to be, because I get tanned very easily, and living in the south of Portugal, which is sunny a lot of the time, I'm not as tan now. But yeah, they say that I'm pale.
As you go back there, you're not from round here, are you?
Yeah.
Where have you been? You've been to the north.
Yeah, exactly. They now joke about it as well. Every time I go home, they're like, "You don't live here anymore, do you?" It's like, how do you know? How do you know?
She's not from round here. We must judge her.
Yeah.
No, we don't do that. But, I mean, again, it's great to hear like this background of your history, because again, like I said, it's you don't always get to hear other people's backgrounds from coming from a different country. And again, as you've just quite rightly just said, you've kind of adapted so well that even you've managed to cloak your voice to a point that even Portuguese people can't recognise you, which I find hilarious.
I try.
You're doing well. Keep it up. But speaking of languages, you speak quite a few languages, right?
So fluently, I speak, well, I'm going to include Portuguese in there as well, because English and Portuguese for sure. I do speak Spanish, and I understand Spanish very well. But it's one of those languages I don't need to speak like on a daily basis. So I don't practice, and I sound terrible, and I'm very shy about it. So I don't speak that as much. So technically, on the fairly close to fluent level, 3 languages, but I understand Italian very well, but I can't speak it. So I think it comes down to being Portuguese, and the Portuguese language does give you a basis for a lot of other languages, particularly languages that are rooted in Latin. It helps a lot. I have family in Germany. I can't speak English, as you can tell. I have family in Germany, so I understand a little bit of German, but I can't speak it to save my life. So actually, my listening and my reading skills are a little bit better than my speaking skills, because it does come with confidence, and I'm not confident in a lot of those languages. I've been learning Japanese for a long time. I'm not as good as I would like, but it's probably, I would put that one as my 4th or 5th language at that point. But I don't speak that many languages, but I understand a lot of languages, which is an interesting situation to be in. Sometimes people speak to me in a different language, I reply in English, and they get confused.
What? She knows.
It's like, what is this? What is going on? And it used to happen, particularly working in retail, hearing people talk, sometimes saying things about me in a different language, and I'll be like, I can understand you, right? Like, what are you saying?
I had that exact same thing happen to me once. So I worked in a games retail shop as well for about 5.5 years, and I remember some Arab guys came in, and they were basically taking the mick out of one of my colleagues. So then I started speaking to him in Arabic, and they were like, I was like, gotcha. And their face was just like, oh, he's one of us, and we didn't know. And they were just like, hi.
Happened,
I was like, ha ha ha.
It happened a lot with Spanish. So it's like any customers that was Spanish that would be speaking Spanish, and then I would reply in English, and they would look at me going, "Did you understand what we just said?" I'm like, "Yes." "Are you Spanish?" I'm like, "No." I'm like, "What is going on here?" So yeah, it happened a lot because Portuguese may not be as popular as Spanish, but we're everywhere. Portuguese people are everywhere. Just they're everywhere, okay? And it happened a lot. Yeah, and it happened a lot that they would be talking, and funny enough, a lot of times they would make remarks about me, and I wouldn't say anything. I would actually pretend I didn't understand. I would reply to any other language. With Portuguese, for some reason, I would just pretend I didn't understand it. But a lot of times my face would show it. I would smile, or I would think, wow, what did you just say? And they would look at me. I've had a few instances where people have that slow realization that I can understand them. They literally just go, "No." And I'm like, yes.
It's also probably the pistol that you're pulling out of your hip at the same time, like,
yeah, exactly. And things become awkward very quickly. It's really funny, and I love making people feel awkward. So there we go.
Yeah, you do that quite often on your Twitch streams, especially when you mention people who are from Slough. So
yes.
For those who don't know, I dropped into Marta's stream after doing a cheeky raid, and then got pretty much heckled out of the room by declaring my existence of being in Slough. So
I've spent a bit of time in Slough, and yeah, great place.
Yeah, but of course I'm here.
Yes, that's what makes it good.
I am looking to take over and just make it. I'm going to make it into the city that's like Streets of Rage, basically. That's the plan. There's me in the background. See, there's Slough. That's what I'm trying to do. Exactly that.
I like Nando's. Nando's there's great.
There we go. See, positivity of Slough. Me and Nando's, what a great combination.
Yes, and I know it's like, but Nando's vegan. You can make any meal there vegan. Okay, stop it.
This is true. This is true. Funny enough, you said about Portuguese people being everywhere. Every job that I've had in my career, there's been at least one or two Portuguese people.
Oh yeah.
And in fact, I spotted one before I even got there. So like one of the graphic designers where I work is a Portuguese guy, and before I even got there, I went to a Portuguese and he was just like, "Yeah." I'm like, "I know." And he was like, "How?" I'm like, "I just do." He was like, "That's a bit weird." I was like, "Yeah, hi, anyway, this is my first day," and it was a bit weird. Anyway, welcome.
I've had that happen, yeah.
So what's some of your, I mean, I haven't got any links to your portfolio at the moment, but I mean, you said that you concentrated more on the UX kind of web journey side. What was kind of the driving force behind going into that side compared to, maybe like logo design or typography, for instance?
So actually, it's like, I think the whole story behind that also comes from adaptation. You'll notice a lot of that in everything I mentioned.
Hadn't noticed at all.
Yeah, because for the most part, I like to think that life doesn't give you what you want; it gives you what you need. And I know it's like, here I come with quotes and stuff like that.
I'm gonna write that one down.
But what happened? So I actually started. I got like a trial of Photoshop when I was like 14, and I was playing with things and stuff like that, and I came across back then you can make websites with GeoCities. If people don't know what that is, guys, you're probably very young, and you could add sparkles to your mouse and it would go around. And it's just, it was fantastic. It was all absolutely great. So I was already into...
As I like to refer to it as, it was basically the home of the GIFs, because every website had 1,000 GIFs and then music in the background and everything. It was brilliantly awful.
Anyone that knows me, even within work, they know I love a GIF, and I love making GIFs as well. I make them all the time, even within a work context. I make them all the time.
I like this.
But with oh my god, I completely lost my train of thought now. GIFs, design, digital. Yes, I know what I'm talking about. I'm a professional. We're back. So I was already into digital at that point, but by the time I got to university, I was very much into, if anyone listening is into design in general, I was into typography and, book design, like print design, and all this, like, the it's like the thickness of paper, the textures, it's just print design is something that I absolutely love and is great. But by the time I got to university, and again, it's like to bring it back a little bit, I was working and studying. I came to the very sad conclusion that you need money to do well. And what happened a lot is that, for example, there was, for example, a project where we had to design a book. The people that had access to better printers were the people that did better. Simple as that. Literally, you can be a fantastic designer, but if I'm literally doing stuff by hand and hand stitching the book, it's not going to look as good, and it's not going to get as a good score as someone that literally went to a printer and got it done professionally. And a lot of that stuff I saw that particularly with architecture as well. So I wasn't studying architecture, but I was very close to someone that was studying architecture at the time. And he experienced the same thing. He kept saying that everyone has money to get stuff, 3D printed or cut, like with laser cutting. It's like he didn't have money for that. He had to hand cut everything. And of course, hand cut, you can be perfect, but being hand cut doesn't... it will never look as good as a laser cut. It just won't. So he experienced that as well. And with me, I noticed that. It's like if I printed stuff, every time that work required printing, painting, actually me acquiring materials, I would always suffer because I didn't have the money for those materials. For more that I loved screen printing and all of that, but that required... I'm not going to go into it because I think it's a bit of a sad slope to take into, but this was at a time in my life where sometimes I had to pick, it's like, do I pay the bills or do I eat? Yeah. It's like, and a lot of times, of course, I have to pay the bills. I can stay a day or two without eating. It's absolutely fine. It's okay. It's not a problem. This was my decision. This was not because I genuinely had to, but sometimes you have to make sacrifices to achieve the things that you wanted. And I knew I was working with very little money at the time at university. So every corner I could take, every opportunity I would take to do a digital project, I would, because I would spend no money and I knew I was good at it. So if it was, you get to do, this is the project, you can make a website. Can I now? Done. It's a website. Because I knew if I attempted to do anything else, I knew the cards were stacked against me. It's like my odds, the odds wouldn't be as good. No. So that's how I kind of landed into the digital space. I have a computer, I can do this. This will not stop me from being good at it. While with print and web, within university, and particularly, I'm not going to go into it, but particularly within university, when it's already as expensive as it is, give equal opportunities to everyone. I mean, everyone, give the same materials, the same resources to everyone, and you'll be surprised how people will perform. So I went into digital mainly because of that. I like digital a lot, and on my spare time, sometimes I'll do some print work. It's like I did, even when I was freelancing, I did quite a bit of print as well. And I'm well versed on print. Again, graphic design is my trade. I'm not just digital, but digital is where I focused because of that. So it was kind of one of those situations where I adapted. I knew I didn't have that much money to spend on print materials or printed work. So I was like, is that the case? Fine. I'm going to play your game, but when I have the opportunity to play mine, we're going digital. And that's why I did, like, every single project where I had the chance to do it, I did it.
That's really cool. Really cool. See, I told you she's awesome. I only the best guests come on here. So to come on a topic that I wanted to talk about, and I know for some it can be quite sensitive, because in the press of lately, women in gaming has been quite forefront in a lot of negativity. Let's be honest, and rightly so. There's been some horrific things that have happened in gaming, but I think from your side is what I'd like to hear is some of the more positive sides of being a woman in gaming. So probably what's your favourite memory of being a very strong and talented woman in the games industry?
Oh wow. I think the first thing that comes to mind, actually. So there's a working within video games, for some of you that are familiar with MCV, they did like a 100 most influential women in gaming kind of thing, and there was like they had 100 women that were in the spotlight. It's like some of them being my colleagues and some of them being from the industry and me being friends with them. And I wasn't nominated, but that's not even the point. The point is that what made me so happy being a woman within the industry was seeing all these women being celebrated. And there was a party at EGX where all of them got together. This is way before the whole pandemic kicked off. So there was this big party where women, not just women, but all these women, men, anyone, any gender, any labels, got together and just celebrated being within the industry. And I remember that night, it was such a good night. Everyone was having a good time, and I was really happy to celebrate my colleagues and see people that maybe have more years of experience than I have within the industry. Everyone was just, we were having all these discussions about women in gaming and even like equal gender opportunities in gaming, and it was healthy. There were healthy discussions, and we were doing that with a beer hand. How great is that? So it was just that is a great memory to have, and it was great for me personally. It was just great to be surrounded by so many wonderful people, and people sometimes will joke about it. It's like, oh, but you weren't even nominated, why are you happy? It's like, it's not just about you. It's like, I think great women raise other women, and sadly it does happen that sometimes we do live in a world where people feel like they have to bring others down to go up. Yep. And I'm not of the opinion of that. Bring everyone up with you. If you're going up, bring them with you, and if people are already up, raise them higher. It's like, and then aim to get there and maybe beyond, but not by bringing people down. And I was so proud to see so many wonderful women, some close friends, to just be there and talk about it and talk about their experiences. I thought that was a great night, and I hope they do more of those in the future and keep celebrating women in gaming. Because a lot of times people say, oh, we don't need that anymore. It's like, you're probably not a woman if you think we don't need that. I hope one day we don't. I hope one day we don't need the whole best women in gaming. We just have best people in gaming. But until that day comes, I want to see that as much as possible, because representation is important. And growing up, I was kind of lucky that I personally didn't feel like representation was that needed for me personally. But that doesn't, I'm not the only special snowflakes in the world. Other people need representation. And I know that the instances in life where I saw representation, that's where I went, oh wow, I can do that. You don't think about it. You see yourself in something, and that's what happened in that evening. Seeing all those wonderful women, some doing talks, some just having a chat and sharing their experience with me, that's what made me go, oh my God, if they can do that, maybe, just maybe, one day I can be just as good as them. I can only wish to be, or even as half as good as them. So that was a great time, and I hope we get to see more of that.
No, I totally agree, and I think that's a fantastic answer. I think one of the problems with gaming, and it has been an issue for, well, as long as I've been playing games, is let's not beat around the bush here. It's been mainly dominated by men for decades, right? And I think it's a bit like if you ever see a female car mechanic, suddenly you're like, what? A woman can take a wheel off a car and do oil changes? And it's like, yes, they can. And I think it's I mean, the first time
it's funny you mentioned that, because I was very much into cars when I was a kid, and it kind of got beaten out of me, right? Because people used to joke about I was into Formula 1 and rally, and to this day I like cars. I'm just not as well versed in the subject, because people it's not a thing girls like, and I allowed it to happen. And only recently I started getting back into it again. So but please, sorry, I just thought... No, please do. I mean, it's one of those things where I think I went through this in my mind, and I guess probably when I was younger and
less aware of the world. You know, I remember seeing like the world's first female gamers, and I remember quite well in my head, and I'll quite adamantly admit that, you know, I kind of immediately said, oh, girl gamers, oh, they'll be rubbish, you know, and this, that, and the other. And then I started watching them, and I thought, my God, they're actually better than I am. Like, this is embarrassing. But then I suddenly went, is it embarrassing, or is it just that they're better gamers? And I said, Christ, I'm actually right.
And yeah, it's the whole, I got beaten up by a woman, that's embarrassing. Why is that embarrassing? What is the is it because she happens to be a woman? And women are supposed to be weak? Is that what you're saying? Exactly.
And that was kind of my... I guess it was probably, you know, the man side that you get drilled into when you were younger, and it's like, you know, men are big and strong and women go and spend time in the kitchen, which is completely wrong.
Yeah.
And I think the one thing that really showed me a wide variety of how women can have an influence is, I mean, I'm very much into my fighting games, so Tekken, Street Fighter, name them, I've pretty much played them all. That scene...
So was I.
Yeah.
Was.
No, we'll get you back into it. it. But to see that community come together, and, you know, I remember I used to go to a lot of meetups, and you would see women playing with guys, and they would be having a chat about, you know, different combinations and stuff. And I said, this is fantastic. Like, this is the type of stuff that needs to be exposed. And look, let's be honest, we all know news companies are a dying breed, right? And they need the big sell. So as soon as some of these things start to break out about, you know, the way women have been treated in the games industry and stuff like that, a lot of people grab that and ran with it, and rightly so, because some of those things were absolutely horrific of what was going on. But at the same time, there was no counter stories of going, well, actually, I'm a woman, and here's the amazing things. And hearing, like what you said, where there's an event where everybody is together celebrating that's the type of stuff that should be spoken about more, rather than the negative stuff. But the issue is that the media is constructed in such a way where it sells, right? Let's be honest. Negativity. I can't even say it. Negativity. There we go. I've said it. Is the thing that sells, right? And that's why I think it's focused on. But it's lovely to hear from yourself that kind of positive nature where, you know, as you said, it isn't a case of others trying to bring others down, it's others trying to be pushed up. And that's always been a mantra of mine. And whether that's been at work, whether that's been streaming, you know, I'm one of the massive supporters of everyone that's around me. And for all those who have followed today, or even in the past, you know, all of it is greatly appreciated, because I still find it weird that lots of people follow me. But anyway, we'll come into that. It's my own battle. But coming back to the women in gaming, I think it's amazing to see that there are more women getting into gaming, probably more than ever. And I think, as you said, it was one of those things to do with exposure, because much like yourself, there's probably, let's be honest, thousands of people who are modelers, animators, graphic designers, coders, that probably still have this kind of, well, I'm a female, maybe I'm not allowed to be in gaming. And they kind of, and I think there needs to be almost like a mentorship where, you know, maybe some of the higher up people, I mean, you probably do this yourself, which is kind of look around and be like, hey, look, if you need help, here's my hand. I will bring you up and give you this kind of exposure to what you need. And I think there needs to be a lot more of that. But that's not just, you know, in women of gaming. I think that's probably in all industries. There's still a lot of...
for sure.
Snobbery, kind of like, oh, well, look at this person trying to be better than me. It's like, well, if they are, join them. You know, do something together. You know, collaborations can birth some beautiful things sometimes. So again, as I said, it's fantastic to hear that from yourself. And I mean, how long have you been in the gaming industry now for?
It will be, I believe. Let me think about it. Around, if it's not 7 years already.
Wow. Okay.
Around that, So around that, so it's it has been a long and interesting journey.
No, I'm sure. Well, I mean, you know, going through your history, growing up, plus your gaming history, plus obviously your career. I mean, it's a fantastic story in itself. Maybe we need a book. That's what we need.
We need a book. I think a book about my life would probably be a little bit boring. I'm
trying to think what the cover would be. The discovery of vegan Nando's or something like that.
Yes, that would be great. That'd be great.
Speaking of your veganism, I mean, it was not that I want to go massively into it, but I mean, is it something that you've discovered recently, or is it something you've done like your entire life?
No, So if anything, it's like usually when people ask me about veganism, I'll say my only regret is not starting sooner. So I was vegetarian for 7 years
Right.
in the past. So I lived in Portugal, was vegetarian, moved to the UK, struggled to be vegetarian here for a while. Again, we're talking about 10, 12 years ago. And then I missed, I wasn't doing it for the right reasons. I wasn't doing it for ethical reasons. So I missed chicken, and I ate popcorn chicken from KFC, and I went back into meat. So I started eating meat again and all that. But actually, I became vegan. It will be 3 years in December.
Okay.
What happened was I was having quite a few health issues, and I started looking into it. So by this point, I had been to the hospital a couple of times, and people weren't really fully able to pin down what was wrong with me. And then I started looking into options. It gets to a point where like, okay, they're not being able to help me. I need to look into something myself, even if it sounds like a bit like unorthodox or weird. Let's give this a go. So I looked into veganism, and I was like, okay, I mean, I don't have to go fully into it, but at least I can give it a go. And I have a few, not that. Back then, I only knew a couple of people that were vegan. And I start asking questions, and it's like, oh, what do you eat? What do you do? And it just ended up, I just went down the rabbit hole because I started researching and I started watching a couple of documentaries. I was looking into it for my health, and then I stumbled across the ethics side of it. And I've always, from a very young age, always said I love animals. I love animals. They're great. Before wanting to be a neurosurgeon, I also wanted to be a vet. So in my head, I was just, I love animals. And then I started watching things about it and starting finding out more about it. And then I realized that my values did not align with what I was doing. I was like, I say I love them, and I'm not just saying dogs and cats, but what people consider to be socially acceptable here, because different countries have different standards.
Correct.
What people consider to be socially acceptable here to eat. So chickens, I like chickens. Chickens are great. I like cows. I like pigs. I didn't eat rabbit from a very young age, or ducks, because I had pet ducks and I thought rabbits were cute. And then I remember coming across, so what if one animal is cute, deserves more love than the other animal? So I literally wrestled with this with quite a while. I was like, oh my God, it's like, I really like this. I really like eating this, but I don't want to be part of this. So there was actually this internal,
like a struggle
arguments that were happening in my head, just going, but I really like chicken. Which is usually, I think that's how most vegans go, oh my God, or cheese, or, it's like it's usually cheese that gets people for the most part. But I just had a moment, I think it was like a 3 months of gradual, slowly stopped eating things. And I think there was just a moment in my head that I just went, I can't do this. I can't, myself, I can't do this. So, what was harder wasn't me doing it, it was other people accepting it that I was doing it. So I gradually did it for others. It wasn't even for me, because I wanted to fully stop. I was ready to go cold turkey and not eat it anymore. But family members and particularly family members, again, growing up in Portugal, meat, fish, big, particularly in the south of Portugal, big deal. So for them, I was gradual, because I was seeing them. It's like my mom was spending some time with me at the time. She was cooking for me a lot, and I started asking for, please don't make as much meat, don't make it. And I pretended that it was a New Year's resolution. It's like, I'm not gonna eat. I'm gonna go vegan for 30 days. And they're like, oh, just wait a few more days. It's always like this. You can't let people make decisions for you. Remember this. Looking at you right now. Don't let other people make decisions for you. You make your own decisions. Don't cave into peer pressure. They kept just going, just wait a few more days and then start that. I'm like, no, it's New Year's Day. I'm starting today. And that was it. And 2 years, 3 years later, oh, you're still doing that? And I'm like, yeah, I kind of liked it, so I stuck around with it. That's kind of how I stumbled into it. But yeah, I never thought I could do it. So it was something that never really truly crossed my mind. But I never had looked into the ethics side of it for myself. Again, this is something that that I personally wanted to do once. There's a wonderful vegan activist that he usually says that once you know better, you do better. And once I found out more, I did the best I could do to align my values with the actions I take. That's
So here's a controversial question for you, and I don't quite know how you're going to react to this.
Yeah.
What are your thoughts on vegan food that is made to look or be like the original food? So like vegan chicken and things like that.
Yeah. I don't have a problem with it because I think the misconception that happens with a lot of people when it comes down to veganism is that we don't like meat, or that we don't like. We love burgers, we love sausages, we love steak. It's not a matter of, some people they don't like it, but it's not a matter of taste. I personally, I wasn't that big into red meat, but I love the good steak. I love the burger, and I like having cheese from time to time, but it wasn't because of that. It was for the animals. So I am an ethical vegan. If the burger tastes like meat, smells like meat, looks like meat, sometimes it can be a bit unnerving because it feels too real, and it does happen. And we are at that stage where you're kind of like, wow, look at what we're doing. Things look very real. But if it hasn't harmed any animals in the process, I'm happy. To me, that's what matters the most. And of course, there's also the argument that these things are not as healthy. And I 100% agree. You can be a very unhealthy vegan. You can be very unhealthy. So I think that I think of these foods as, from time to time, you treat yourself. From time to time, you have a burger. From time to time, you have some vegan sausages, and you can have some vegan cheese. Not all the time, the same way that you shouldn't have those things all the time, even if you're not. But they're also great transition foods. People that want to do it. I know so many people that want to do it, but their first answer is, oh, but I really like burgers, or oh, I really like cheese. There's loads of options that if you find an option that you really like, that takes you that next step, that helps you reduce a little bit. Because I think there's one thing that meat eaters and vegans can agree on: the mass production of meat is insane. It's too much. It's too much. Whether we can, whether it's like whether you want to eat meat or not. I'm not here to point fingers or judge you, because I was eating meat for 30 years of my life. Like I'm no one to say anything. Yes, I was vegetarian, and yes, I'm now vegan, but I'm no one to point fingers at anyone. I've also been there. I've also made jokes about eating animals. I'm no one to do anything. But if there's one thing we can agree, it's just the mass production is insane at this point. It has gotten to a point that is too far, and it's too much, and people need to start taking a step back. And it's wonderful to hear so many people just saying, oh, you know what, I do meatless Mondays, and I don't eat as much meat. If a vegan burger does that for you, amazing. Do that. But yeah, there's a big misconception that we don't like meat. It's not a matter of taste. It's a matter of ethics. You will find vegans that do it because they don't like the taste and they don't like the food. But for the most part, me being one of them, I love vegan chicken nuggets. I have those bad boys often. I probably shouldn't.
I was about to say.
Or vegan ice cream.
We can all agree that chicken nuggets, whether they be vegan or not, are good.
They're great. And look, I don't want to disappoint anyone, but what you get in chicken nuggets, and this is something I used to say before, it's not that much real chicken in there. I was about to say that, yeah. So you'll be happy to find out that vegan chicken nuggets are just as delicious and probably just as unhealthy. So.
Yes. we can agree that you can be unhealthy, be it vegan or not.
100%. 100%.
There's your takeaway. With no pun intended there. Before we started the stream, I noticed that you have a certain amount of medals behind you, which means as a vegan, you are making all kinds of gains. So would you like to explain?
I'm making all kinds of...
So would you like to explain those medals?
Those over there, yeah. So I it's nothing special. I'm not an athlete.
Here we
or
go.
anything,
Nothing special. I'm just going to leave. Just going to tee that up. Nothing special.
It's
But
like,
you go
nothing
ahead.
special. So we were talking about special effect, and it's like that we're both very close to special effect ourselves. I think one of the first medals I got was with them. I do a 10K with them every year. It is for charity. It's the London 10K. My first ever 10K was with them, and ever since then, I've been doing a 10K with them every year. So you get a participation medal. When you finish, you get a medal. So half of those are that. I have one medal from basketball. I used to do basketball when I was much younger, and I did it during university as well. I have a couple of half marathon medals. One of them was for special effect. My first ever half marathon was probably special effect as well, because special effect has that effect on people. They just make you do things. I have a go-karting medal because I came second.
Get it.
It was my first and only medal for the first and only time doing go-karting, and I came second. I was so close to being first as well, but I loved it, and I want to go go-karting again very soon, whenever the world is back to normal.
You didn't have enough bananas or shells. That was the problem. You need some of those.
Yeah, exactly, and it was Mario Kart themed as well. I was dressed as Bowser, and it was great.
Superb.
I'll see if I can dig out some pictures.
Yes.
But yeah, it was fantastic. But the medal says first, and I was like, you know what, you came second, but you're first in our hearts. Great.
There we go.
And I also do. I haven't done it as much recently, but I do CrossFit, and hopefully people won't think that I'm one of those people that will just injure herself. But I do have a couple of medals from that. Again, just participation medals, but just CrossFit competitions and obstacle courses as well, like your Tough Mudders and stuff like that. So they're mainly just, I actually don't have all of the ones I've gained over the years. I have gotten rid of some because it became too much. There was just too many of them. I know this sounds weird. Okay, I know it sounds weird. Oh, I had too many medals. They're participation medals. They're not. I didn't get in the podium. Okay. So yeah.
Not yet.
It's just good fun. It's just good fun. It's good fun.
It's safe to say that if you were to mock Marta, she would run, chase after you, and hunt you down.
I'm not that good of a runner. I'm actually. It's like running is not my forte. But I do what I can. I'm a slowpoke.
Slow but steady, that's the case.
Slow and steady.
So a question has come in, which kind of ties in. I don't know if this is about your career or just in general, but JX2001 asks, what's the highest thing on your bucket list that you haven't been able to do yet?
Oh, that's a very good question. I don't know. Highest thing on my bucket list that I haven't been able to do yet. It almost shows how privileged I've been in my life, because I can't think of anything like straight up. No, I know. It's learn how to skate properly. Learn how to skate properly.
As in skateboard or roller skates?
Skateboard. Ooh. I know how to roller skate, but skateboarding is a thing. So when I was a kid, I did have. So I used to do BMX when I was a kid. I did loads. I was the type of kid that would try loads of different things and did loads of different things. I was literally, I did swimming. I was actually a really fantastic swimmer till the age of 5, and then I stopped. Like I always got put into swimming school. As a kid, they just dropped me in the pool and left me there and hoped for the best. And then I was actually doing like kids competition. Yeah, exactly. Good luck. And then I decided to stop to do other things. But yeah. But skateboarding, I just remember that this actually has come up a few times, particularly with the new Tony Hawk game coming out recently. That a lot of my friends did it. I knew people that did it, but I used to think that only cool kids did it. I wasn't cool. I did a little bit of BMX, but again, it was nothing. We would build our own ramps. And I have someone ringing my door at the moment.
You can go and get that if you want. I can take care of things.
It's like you can take care of things. I can go find out. I can go find out what it is.
There we go. Maybe
it's me.
Yeah. I've never had that happen before. How ironic. But if you do want to learn more about Marta, !pod guest in chat, and that will give you a little bit of information about her. I believe her Twitch is on there, so if you're not currently following Marta, please go and do that. And also, if you want to follow her on Twitter, I believe her Twitter link is in there. So !pod guest. If you do want to ask a question, !pod question, and you can ask a question. She's back. She's back. She's alive.
I'm back. I got some parcels. Sorry, guys. I got some parcels.
That's all right. No
I haven't opened them yet. I
was going to say I open them on stream, but we won't do that.
No, let's not do that. I don't know what I got. 99% of the time, I never know what I'm getting.
Yeah, I had that happen the other day. I ordered a load of stuff, and something got delivered. I was like, "What's this?" And I was like, "Oh yeah, I ordered this like a month and a half ago." Whoops. So.
Yeah, whoopsie. But yeah, skateboarding. It was the time I wasn't a cool kid, and yeah, I did a bit of BMX, but we used to build our own ramps, like, and not even with pieces of like not cardboard, like wooden pieces that we'd find on the road, and it's like we would try, and it's like corners of sand and dirt, and we tried to build our own ramps and stuff. So that was the type of thing I used to do. But skateboarding, for some reason, it always felt. So I was very much into cycling, but skateboarding always felt like something out of reach. And with my parents, at the time, they were like, I was already coming home full of bruises and hurt all the time. I'm surprised I never broke anything. But that was something I was already doing. So it's like if I mentioned skateboarding, they would be like, "Don't be silly, don't do that." Also, not a thing that girls do. Already, BMX was already something that girls don't do, and I was very tomboyish growing up, and I think that may come across very easily. So I just put it in the back of my head, skateboarding is not something that is for me because I'm not cool enough to do skateboarding. I'll never be able to learn. I'll never be able to do it. So I always avoided it. And then later on, I got to meet friends that did longboarding. So when I was at university, at the job that I had, a couple of friends used to commute using longboards. And one of them I was close with, he used to say, "I'll teach you how to longboard." And I'll be like, "Yeah, but I won't be able to." Yeah, it's just like, I always put obstacles in front of me. And
Sure.
Sometimes I get annoyed at myself that I did that. I'm like, why were you like that? And then recently, something completely different. I didn't know how to skip from, jumping rope as a kid. I never learnt it. And a couple of years ago, I was doing a CrossFit workout that involved a lot of skipping. And I was so slow and terrible because I didn't know how to skip. I got very tired and I was like, you know what, screw this. I'm buying a jumping rope and I'm going to learn this bad boy. I'm going to do it. And I now know how to skip better than a lot of people that have. It's like if I allow to gloat a little bit, I know better than what a few people that have learnt it when they were kids, and they still skip today, but it's not like a big part of their lives. It has become my favorite workout. It's like it went from being something that I hated to something that I absolutely love. And if I don't feel like working out, I just grab a skipping rope, I go outside for a little bit, I jump a little bit, I already feel like doing a full workout. And so that's when I started. A friend of mine at work, he was using a penny board to commute to work, and I was like, "Oh, so you're commuting to work?" And I'm like, "Yeah, that sounds fun." And I'm like, "Is that with a skateboard?" And I was just like, "Will you teach me?" And I put in my. That's when I went. You know what? If I can learn how to skip, I can do anything. If a slowpoke, uncoordinated person like me can do that, I need to learn this. So I got a penny board and then I got a skateboard and I started to try and learn it. But it's something I'm still not comfortable with. I still don't know how to. I just want to learn how to cruise. First, learn how to cruise. So
Sure.
just use it as a means of commuting. And once I'm comfortable with that, then I would like to maybe learn a few tricks here and there. But cruising is the thing that I find the most fun. And I have an electric scooter, one of those electric scooters, and I use those bad boys for commuting as well. And I just want to do that without having to hold on to something. That's what it comes down to, really.
Well, I guess you're halfway there, right? Because you kind of need an established balance to get that.
Yeah.
So I mean, you'd probably learn skateboarding, I think, a lot quicker than you probably expect. One thing that's just been said one thing that's just been said in chat that's now made me laugh quite a lot was someone said, "Get her back when she's got her medal for skipping."
Maybe for skipping.
That's superb.
it wouldn't happen, but I know how to do a few tricks. There are competitions for skipping, and I know a few people that are absolutely fantastic. Yes. Oh, there's like skipping competitions, like doing tricks and stuff like that. I can do a few things, but nothing like some of the people that I know that are absolute beasts at skipping. They're absolute legends, and I highly recommend. Honestly, I recommend everyone to skip. I think it's a great form of working out, and it's fun.
I think
it's really fun.
I think what we need is a video of you on your stream with rocky music in the background, like a montage, like of you skipping and then doing some deadlifts or something. Like there we go.
Oh my god!
Like, now I can play Streets of Rage 4. Like
I sometimes do share a few videos of me doing things, but it's like skipping and some other stuff. I get really self-conscious. Like seeing myself work out is not a nice thing. I know I sometimes do it on stream, but I'm not looking at myself while I'm doing it, so it doesn't. And then I never look at it again. I just like.
It's done. And
Hearts of Fire from Rocky 4. Yes.
I would put it on, but I'd probably get taken down. But but one thing I was actually going to say was, I mean, I've kind of discovered you through some of your streaming on various different channels and stuff. And I think the one thing we can all say is that collectively you bring so much energy and passion into everything you do. And it's amazing to see you obviously convey that into the work that you do and your streams as well. And for anyone who hasn't actually seen any of Marta's streams, there's a couple of links in chat, and also if you're watching this on demand, they'll be available in the description. But Marta's streams are some of the funniest things I've ever seen in my life. It's how can I put it? Organised chaos with a smile.
Organised chaos is a great. Organised chaos is a great description of it. Yeah.
Like in the 10 minutes I was there, like you were being mocked in chat. You called yourself a dirty vegan. You did like 500 push-ups or something crazy, and then just jumped straight back into Streets of Rage. And I'm going, hang on a minute, what's going on here? But brilliant either way, and I think it's completely commendable the work you're doing, and you have been a fantastic guest, so thank you so much for the time that you've given me. So I think we will wrap it up there. So again, I'm going to give you your Saturday back because you've probably been sick of looking at this face, but you have had Streets of Rage 2 to look at, so that's good. Right?
Streets of Rage 2 is great.
And we've got double Sonic action going on here, so this is good.
I like it.
Good. But yes, so from me, Machine Dean, and from Marta. Again, if you do want to learn about Marta, !podcast, and it'll give you all the links and a little bit of information about Marta. But thank you so much. You have been an amazing guest, and we've learned so much.
Thank you.
I now need to brush up on my Portuguese now.
learn a few words. I'll teach a few words on my streams sometimes. Just stop by.
There we go. The meeting of minds, you see, ladies and gentlemen. This is why this podcast exists, is that I get to talk to amazing people and learn random pieces of information. I hope you've certainly enjoyed this as well, because I have. So from me, Machine Dean, and from Marta, have a great Saturday, and thank you so much for everyone who's followed and shared the stream and everything. You guys are amazing. Without you, this doesn't happen. So again, thank you so much. Right, anyway, I'm going to leave it at that. So thank you very much. Have a great Saturday and take care. See you soon.
Take care, everyone.